Here's the ultimate marketing question for health coaches. Which funnel should you be using? And listen, don't let these gurus out there talk you into a one size fits all model because that's not really the way it works. I'm going to walk you through the 5 best funnels out there from worst to best. And these are all ones that my 7-figure clients are using every single day. They all work at some level or another. So you really just need to pick one and don't lift your head up until you make it work. All right, let's go. Hey, before we get into this, let's just talk about a couple of things and get these out of the way. That's return on ad spend and revenue. And the reason I'm bringing those two things up is because sometimes they're mutually exclusive. I've seen this, and I see this a lot actually, where testimonials will pop up and people will say, oh, my client got $100,000, did $100,000 month. And that's great, but they spent $90,000 to get there. You just don't see that. You don't hear about that. They're focused on the revenue. And what I want to show you here is that you kind of have to decide which direction you want to go, because if you want a business that's just growing revenue wise, then you're going to pick different funnel or multiple funnels to make that happen. So the first thing we want to do is we want to talk about the first funnel, and that one's going to be group ads. So when you're running ads to grow your Facebook group or something like that. All right, let's get into it. So I know how much y'all love my handwriting, so I thought I'd keep that up. And again, we're going to talk about the Facebook group ad funnel. Now, typically on this, you're going to see, let's see here, Facebook group ads. Okay, so these are ads just to grow your Facebook group. Now, what does that look like? Well, typically what you're going to see is a 2 to 4x return on ad spend. And the problem, if there is a problem with this, is it's a slow process. Usually Facebook group ads, you don't turn them immediately into clients. It's a nurturing thing. And so it's a kind of a slow burn, if that makes any sense. And so it's hard to scale with ads because you often can't tell what's working very quickly. And by the time you figure it out, it's something different, if that makes sense. And often there's usually a negative return, and which is totally normal. If you understand the process, you're going to be just growing your group over time, realizing that the return's going to come later. If you have that understanding, this is great. And this is also a great supplement. So in other words, let's just say you don't have a good lead magnet, or your lead magnet's weak, like it's just like a simple recipe book or something like that. You'd be better off running ads to grow your Facebook group, because then at least they're getting into your world and you can have more contact with them. There is a bit of a revenue ceiling often with this, unless you're building your list at the same time, which is what we are going to talk about doing here real quick. Now, typically the way it works is you're going to take an ad and you're going to run that to a landing page. Okay. And then once you run it to a landing page, you're going to send them to the group. So in other words, when they get to the thank you page, they opt in, then they go to the thank you page. The thank you page has a button to take them back to the group. Now, sometimes you use what we call lead form ads, where you actually don't build a landing page, but for now, we're going to talk about this. Now, once they're in the group, well, what do? You nurture them. And then as you nurture them, you're going to book calls. Now, we know that people tend to need multiple touch points, and this might be just one of them. So you might book a call pretty quick, or what happens is you might not book a call for 6 months, but they opted into other things that you have, or they've been following you, or something along those lines. So something to remember is we have kind of like this 5-day, 5-week, 5-month rule. And what that really comes down to is if somebody doesn't convert into a call in the first 5 days, then it's going to take at least 5 weeks. If they don't convert in the first 5 weeks, it's going to take at least 5 months. So you have to have that expectation. And the lowest percentage of people obviously are going to convert at 5 days, then the next lowest at 5 weeks, and then 5 months. But that's typically how it works. It's a good funnel. It's not that there's anything wrong with it, as long as you understand the expectations of it. All right, let's talk about the next one, which is basically a low ticket offer. We'll say LTO. Okay, so this is something that you're going to do, it's like a $27 offer, or maybe up to $67, somewhere in that neighborhood, a little lower, a little higher, doesn't really matter. You're not going to make money on this part of it anyway, but you can get a 2x to 5x return. Can you get more? Yeah, I actually have a client that does get more than that, but it's not scalable for a lot of people, and there's a lot of reasons for that. It's not scalable at the higher return on ad spend. Is what I'm getting at. The lower return on ad spend, you can scale it. But most people tend to quit this funnel before the math works. And why? Well, it's because they're thinking that that these low ticket offers are going to offset their ad cost, and it really doesn't. Meaning, you might spend $200 to get a sale. Okay. And then if you minus out the $27 that you got back, well, you ended up spending $173 for the sale, right? So you're not making any money. You still, are negative on that. And so a lot of people can't handle that. And it eats away at them because they're like, oh, I'm losing money on this, but they're not seeing the big picture. The big picture is that when you do this kind of funnel, roughly 70 to 80% of those people who purchase, okay, will book a call. They will book. So that's a lot different, right, than a lead magnet or a Facebook group where, 5% will book, right, or less than that. So even though you may be getting leads at a lower cost doing, say, a Facebook group or whatever, with this, you're getting a lot more people to book, and your show up rates are a lot better. So people show up, and it's awesome. And you don't have that, you don't struggle with getting people to show up quite as much. Now, it's not perfect, but it is a good way to go. So how does this work? Well, you add to a VSL. Okay, that's a video sales letter, and yes, that is an L. And then when they watch the VSL, they're not opting in to watch this VSL. They're just going to click to check out. So they go to a checkout page. Okay, that's where they see the $27 offer. And then once they go to the checkout page, the next thing that they see after they purchase is an implementation call. I think I should have just called that a schedule page. Okay, so they're going to schedule their call right there because the implementation call is included with their purchase, right? They paid for the implementation call. So in their head, well, I paid for this, I better show up, or I better do this. So that's why this is effective. Then once they do the implementation call, then you get a sale. Okay, they show up and you get a sale. And so that's why that's effective, because you're offsetting some ad cost. You're getting a better quality buyer for the most part. Now, everybody's not going to be a good fit, but I do have clients that sell a $6,000 offer in health coaching doing it this way, and it is effective. So you can do this. Just be willing to go negative. If you're not willing to go negative, then it makes it tougher. And I guess psychologically, people don't equate it to the same thing as if you're running ads to a Facebook group. Well, you're going negative there. You're doing the same thing. You're just getting a lot more people in, so it kind of feels better, if that makes sense. This, you get a lot fewer people and you're going negative, but lower numbers can still work with this. Okay, hopefully that was helpful on that one. And I love low ticket offers, but let me just tell you this real quick. With a low ticket offer, it better be awesome. You can't have a mediocre offer. It has to be like crazy good that they would be crazy not to take it, because if it's not, it's going to be tough to get that sale. Typically what will happen is the people who get to the sales page, the people who get to the VSL, you'll end up converting between 2 and 4% at the most. So if you're expecting 20% of the people to convert, you're going to be upset. But if you have 100 people visit, a couple of them will buy. That's really what it comes down to. But that's all you really need. Okay. All right. And by the way, I just want to say one other thing. I've seen some people out there, some really, really successful people in the marketing space and the business space, say that low ticket to high ticket doesn't work. And I'm not really sure what they're looking at. I think what's happened is they couldn't make it work. So if they couldn't make it work, they're saying it doesn't work for everybody. Not true. That's one nice thing about running my agency, is that I have all these options, and I have 7-figure clients doing all these different kind of funnels. It's not just one size fits all. Like I said before, you can do different things, and sometimes what works for one person will not work for another. Now let's get into the most popular thing that's going on right now, and these are follower funnels or DM funnels. We're actually going to combine them a little bit. So DM/follower funnels. All right. So with these, you can expect a 2x to 4x return. Okay. And this is largely dependent upon if you have a setter or if you're going to be responding to all the DMs or what's going to happen, because you have to be on top of this. This is not hard, but it's time intensive. And if you can't be on top of it, or you don't have a setter or a team of setters to do this, well, then you might have some issues there. You're going to be tough getting the return. So it's easy to get really disappointed with these funnels because it takes a lot of volume, and people are going to ghost you a lot, and they're not going to be a good fit. They don't have anything else to do but message people. So you're going to go through that, and it makes it difficult. But once you get this dialed in, it's a very scalable for now. Now you might be thinking, well, Ben, and by the way, this is all on Instagram, but you might be thinking, Ben, all my clients are on Facebook. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that they are. So the reason it doesn't matter is because on Facebook, you don't, like, if somebody follows you, you don't show up in their feed all the time or at all. I mean, think about how many businesses show up in your Facebook feed that's not an ad. There aren't any. Even the people who have creator profiles, they don't show up that often either. So you have to be really careful with that thought process. On Instagram, they do. And it's not hard to build a following running ads. I mean, you're going to be getting followers for $1 or $2 at the most. I mean, and good ones too, not even just, junk ones. So this is a really good way to do it. So here's how it works. You take an ad, and by the way, there's multiple ways to do this. I'll talk about both of them. So you run an ad to grow your followers. Great. So now you got people following you. You retarget those. So that's an RT, just so you know. So you retarget those people. So everybody who starts following you, and you get them to DM you. And then once you get them to DM you, you book a call. That's it. Now, the other way to do this is you can run an ad to DM to call. I mean, it's that simple. The difference is that when somebody follows you, now they're in your world. Okay, so you've got them in your world, even if they don't DM you back. They're going to see more of your stuff organically, and they're going to feel more aligned with you, and want to actually talk to you. So it's just another touch point. So usually doing a follower is much better. And like I said, once you get that dialed in, you can scale it up pretty fast and pretty easily. Now we've gone through the 3. Now we're going to do number 2. Uh-oh, what am I doing here? Number 2 is going to be a 3-day challenge. Now, look, people say things like, oh, challenges don't work and blah, blah, blah. Email doesn't work. Of course it does. If it does. Not every challenge is going to work, okay? It has to be the right one. It has to be a good fit. It can't just be a ho-hum kind of thing. But you can get 2x to 6x returns pretty well, and they're scalable. So when it comes to a challenge, you want to run it like an intervention, not like a class they got to attend. Like, this is a must-do thing. Like, hey, if you don't do this now, when are you going to do it? Because what you've been doing doesn't work. This is an intervention. And so one of the crucial things that you have to do on a challenge is you have to give them a quick win on the first day. Now that can be tough, right? Especially like if you're trying to do weight loss. How are you going to get them to lose weight? Well, it may not be losing weight that the quick win has to be. Maybe it's just a tip that'll help get them thinking about what they can do to lose weight. Like, hey, you know what? You're going to lose 2 pounds this week if you'll just start drinking, 2 liters of water today through the challenge. I mean, I'm not saying that's true. I don't have no idea. I'm just making that observation. But whatever it is, give them a quick win. That will do it. That'll keep them hooked to come to the next day and the next day. The other thing is that you have to have urgency. This is what people miss out on a lot. They don't create urgency. The urgency is they've got to have urgency to show up. They've got to have urgency to watch the replay, to do any homework assignments you have. They have to have urgency to book a call. You have to push them hard with urgency all throughout, because if you don't, you're just going to lose them, and you're not going to get them to take the next step. Now, one thing you should know about a challenge is that when I've done a lot of research on this and ran so many different kinds, that a lot of people what they don't do is they do one challenge and then they don't tweak it and then they quit doing them. That's not going to work. You need to do the challenge over and over and over, because the same people will sign up multiple times. Like they wanted to come this first time, but they couldn't make it, so they signed up the second time. Well, if they do that, they already feel like they trust you at some level, beyond just the first time sign up. It's really effective. And when I look down through my 7-figure clients, when they have people sign up from challenges, most of the time people signed up for multiple challenges, not just one. So the people who actually purchased, became clients, signed up for multiple challenges. So hopefully that makes sense. So it's a very effective way, but the funnel's pretty simple. You just take an ad, you run it to your landing page, right? And then they register on that page, and then you do the challenge and book a call. I mean, it's that simple. Nothing beyond that. Okay? All right. Now, what's number one? You probably guessed it. It's going to be a masterclass. Okay? I don't really like the term masterclass, so let's talk about that. Actually, before we do, let me just say this. So with a masterclass, if we want to call it that, you're going to get somewhere between a 3x to 10x return on ad spend. Now, you might say, Ben, the last 2 masterclasses I did, they totally tanked. Nobody showed. Okay. So I hear you, but that doesn't tell me anything. I don't know how many people registered. I don't know what your sequences look like. I don't know anything. I don't know if your masterclass topic was compelling, because it really doesn't matter if you can get people signed up to one that's like, I'll catch it later. If you get them signed up to that type of masterclass, yeah, you're going to have bad show-up rates. It's just the way it is. The whole key is urgency has to be presented at the very beginning, that if they don't show up, that they're going to miss out. Okay, so you might do something special live that they're not going to get in a replay, something that they want. Answer a question. You might show them how to do something specific. You might say they'll get, a free set of lab not workouts, but lab tests. I mean, whatever it is. Okay, I don't really know. The free stuff sometimes is effective, but I'm not a huge fan of that. Nevertheless, you want to do something to create urgency. And masterclasses, the other thing that you should know is calling a masterclass is bland. Everybody has a masterclass. What does that even mean? I know a lot of people try to sell their masterclasses. I'm like, that's just not a good thing, because they're everywhere and the value on them is very low, just the word masterclass. Instead, what you don't have a masterclass, you have a system, you have a process, you have a method that you're selling them into. That's what they're signing up for. I would not even call it a masterclass. Okay, it's an hour-long system where you're going to learn exactly how to get from A to Z using these steps. That's what it is. So that's what you want to kind of think about in your head when you're designing it, when you're talking about it. And you have to promote it hard organically. The other thing about these masterclasses, that reason they haven't been working as well for a lot of people, and I had this yesterday where a client was telling me about her masterclass, which it did, I think we determined it still did like a 5X or 6X. I can't remember. But when we looked at the drop-off rate, she had been talking for 17 minutes without really telling them what they were going to get, like they were going to get what they came for. She was talking about other things and her background and her story, which is important. Her story is important because it relates back to the offer and it relates back to the whole reason for the masterclass. But that's too long. You've got to get to what they want as soon as possible. Okay, you don't have to keep going through it. You can take a break and then talk your story, but they have to know they're in the right place as soon as you possibly can let them know that. So make sure you're doing that. The other thing is follow-up is where most coaches really drop the ball. They send out a couple of emails, maybe a text or two, something like that. But what you really want to do is create urgency around booking the call, and you give them a certain time frame. Hey, if you book the call by now, by this date, you'll get this, this, and this. That's urgency, and you've got to incentivize them to book that call. One of the other things that you can do, and this is kind of a pro tip, is that you can take your landing page. So let me the simple process is you take an ad, you run it to a landing page. It's just like a challenge, right? You get them to register, and so they go to the masterclass, and then they book the call. Man, my handwriting today is just really terrible, but that's okay. You understand where I'm coming from. So they book the call. Now, what I was saying is one of the things that a lot of people miss is you can actually take that, once you have the replay ready, you can take that landing page and duplicate it, duplicate it. You can duplicate it and change the date, like remove the date on it and just say watch replay now, right? Wherever the date was, just put watch replay now. And you get people to register just like you did before for the actual class, and you send them to the replay page, and then they book from there. And you can run more traffic to it. So let's just say you ran your masterclass on Tuesday, and on the masterclass you said, you have to book a call by Friday, right, to get whatever it is. Well, what you would do is you would continue running ads Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday until it expires to cold traffic, because that does two things. One, it builds your list, and it gives you another crack at getting somebody to book a call and new people into your funnel. So you continue running it during that time frame. Okay, so now you have a second bite at the apple of the masterclass performing, even for people who didn't get a chance to show up live. Because what are show up rates? Well, show up rates are going to be somewhere between 15% and 40%. And the way that works is 15% are cold traffic people, 40% are warm traffic people. So just meaning if they already in your world, a lot better chance of them showing up than brand new people. But the replay, that catches everybody. So that's how you do it. You don't just send out a replay to the people who signed up, which is great, and you should do that. But you also want to get fresh people coming in. Okay, that we covered a lot, but that was number one. That's what makes it happen. All right, those are your 5, but none of those work unless you're getting traffic. And you can find out how to do that on this video.